All right. Welcome, everyone. There's a few more people who are due to join us, but I will honour those who are here on time and we'll get started. So hello and welcome everyone to this webinar that's been put on by the AWO Tasmanian State Branch in lead up to this year's Tasmanian Water Awards. My name's Connell Mascray. I'm a member of the State Branch Committee and I'll be your MC for this session. Let's start with an acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge and pay respect to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the traditional and original owners and continuing custodians of this land. Yeah, so this webinar has been put on by AWA and our aims are to share, connect and inspire with the water industry within the state and within Australia. I'd like to recognise our national sponsors. You can flick the next slide up, Tash. Yep. So you can, I won't read all of them out, but you can see there's quite a few different organisations are involved. Now for an overview of this year's Tasmanian Water Awards. So these awards seek to celebrate professionals, so either those at the beginning of their careers or those who are well established in the water industry, as well as organisations involved in planning or implementing projects within the water industry. Noting that these do not need to be engineering and design, but can also be in regards to people capital. The awards act to inspire those within the local water industry, as well as help Tasmanians to advertise the skills and passion within the state to a national audience. So this year, as per last year, we're supporting 3 awards. So we have the Tasmanian Water Professional of the Year Award, sponsored by Opinion Advisory. We have the Tasmanian Young Water Professional of the Year Award, sponsored by Stornoway, and the Tasmanian Regional Project Infrastructure Award. So that will be going towards the regional category of the National Infrastructure Project Innovation Award at the National Awards. So thanks to our 3 state award sponsors. Today we'll be hearing from 3 panellists who are representing last year's award winners. So you can see their names there. So we'll have Chris Thompson, or Tomo, as he's commonly known as, Cassandra Tickford-Smith, Cassie, and Lance Stapleton. So these are, I think most of you would know these 3 people within the Tasmanian water industry, and they'll be sharing some of their insights over what it took for them to be successful in last year's submissions. Before we start, I'll just give you a bit of housekeeping. So following the 3 individual presentations, we'll have a Q&A time. So you can probably see at the bottom, if you sort of wave your mouse over the screen, you can see there's a Q&A function within Zoom. So please use that rather than the normal chat function. So you can post questions up there. And then during the Q&A time, we'll hope to answer all of those. If there are any that we can't answer because they're a bit more involved, then we'll certainly get back to you on those. Or if we run out of time, then certainly we'll endeavour to answer all those questions and share the responses. So yeah, these are unusual circumstances. So hopefully, you know, everyone's working from home or within an office in the virtual world at the moment. So hopefully all our IT connections go well and there's no glitching and all the presentations are shared well. But yeah, please be understanding if there's some lags on occasion. So yeah, so let's get started. So first up, we have Chris Thompson from Opinion Advisory. So he's the Water Resources Team Leader. And he can share a bit about how he achieved last year's Tasmanian Water Professional of the Year. Over to you, Tomo.
Try unmuting myself. Not a problem I normally have. Yeah, so thanks very much, Connell. Tash, if you can probably, yeah, that's good. Excellent. So yes, my name's Chris Thompson, known to most people as Tomo and other things. So I was very lucky to be award winner in 2019 for the award sponsored by Trilogy, which was fantastic. That was representing Macquarie Franklin. We during the period up and from the awards to now have merged with a couple of other Australian companies and a US company to produce a specialist company called Pinion Advisory. And Pinion Advisory is the sponsor of the 2020 award. And that's not an accident. It's come primarily from realising the importance of this award and what it meant to me, and what I saw it meant to people around the industry in talking to me about being the recipient of the award. And just a bit of background too, like I've always been, as noted there, I've been a passionate advocate for the water industry. I've worked in agricultural water, and all the other facets of water pretty well since joining Rivers and Water Supply Commission at the age of 18 as a hydrographic assistant. And that's really been my life. And as every year's gone by, I've grown to love it more and grown to realise how important it is. One of the things that I've really discovered in the last few years, most of my work currently is mainland Australia. We've got a really good team here that do most of the work in Tasmania, and I tend to work with our team around Australia. And the thing I've learned is the reason we're able to work around Australia is that the skills and knowledge base we have in Tasmania is second to none in Australia in this area, and we should be very proud of that. And we should realise that we shouldn't undersell our value in any way whatsoever. I think having water and the old 14% of Australia's surface runoff discussion we hear all the time, having that amount of water provides us opportunities to both use and manage water, but also provides a lot of water to manage from a point of view of wastewater. So thus we have that combined with a lot of mountains country, we have a lot of innovation in all the elements of water. And I've certainly seen how much that's respected elsewhere in Australia. Just talking about the nomination process, the 2000 nomination in this case was pulled together by my colleagues. Involved a lot of brainstorming and secretive emails, and I actually discovered I'd been nominated when I was nominated. So that was quite interesting. I think, as it says on the slide, I think most of the team would tell you it's probably a lot easier if the nominee is actually involved. I did appreciate the process, and in the process, interestingly, on winning the award, we discovered that to be in the national finals, you need a video. So we then had to learn how to construct a video. So I did get involved in that process. So just going through some of the things that you really need to be across to be an award winner. And really, the details are there with regards to what the nomination requirements are. But I think in my case, certainly a history of working on some interesting projects. I was very lucky, and I always say it's right place, right time, but I was very lucky to be heavily involved in things like the construction of Craigbourne Dam in the 80s, the construction of Meander Dam, the construction of Midlands Water Scheme, and most of the concept sort of development for Tas Irrigation's schemes, along with a lot of large-scale agricultural projects. So that sort of project work is beneficial for someone applying. However, those things can be equally as incredible, well, incredible is probably the wrong word, but equally good in small and very rewarding projects. So it's about showing projects that are new, interesting, preferably high profile, but test out the process and put your name forward on that sort of stuff. So if we look at the second point about your work in the last 5 years, this probably relates a bit more to the stuff that's just outside of your normal daily activities. I've been, the last couple of years, I've been a director of Tas Irrigation. From an advisory board perspective, in the past, I've been a school council chairman and do a lot of work in assisting with conferences, and have been a board member in the past of a sister organisation in Irrigation Australia. The last couple of years, I've done a fair bit of charity work and worked with Dick Warner from Government House on some projects in Timor-Leste. And there's actually a photo of me looking at some village water supply stuff that we augmented and fixed, so it's now supplying high quality water to one of the villages outside Ballabay. So that's a beneficial thing to consider in your applications. And looking at leadership issues, just how you've impacted people in the environments and organisations you work in. And this is about also people thinking about the future and applying is think about what sort of leadership you can provide, not just what you are providing. And I've always said leadership is one of those things that's not written down, it's developed. So it's that process of being involved and assisting the industry and moving forward. It is an unbelievably good industry, and there is a lot of chance for leadership. Next one, thanks, Tash. So, yeah, diversity and inclusion, and one of the things that I've found really rewarding over the years is a smart person said to me many years ago, always employ people that are smarter than you, and I've certainly achieved that well in everyone that I've employed has been smarter than me, but getting, then providing mentoring to those people, and it's a photo of myself and one of our water leaders at Pinion, Mel Ray, who worked with and for me and with me for a number of years, and I've been very proud to provide mentoring support, and Mel was instrumental in my application, unbeknownst to me. So it's about that engagement process. It's about sharing your information and being supportive and working with people to get them better, not you. So it's a very important. And being, with regards to being an advocate, this is about engaging, being involved in external outcomes wherever possible, conference speaking, engagement with universities. We've had a close relationship for many years with the university in Tasmania, worked with student placements. Don't be afraid to do media work, but be positive about our industry. It is a great industry, and there's so much to be positive about. And I note there, one of the other photos there, that's once again in Timor-Leste. You can tell which one's the one that's got decent food. But that's also Ollie, one of my colleagues, who's the current Rhodes Scholar, who went to Timor with me in November last year. But the other one too is it's about the nomination's got to be about what you're about. It's about telling a story. So don't be frightened to make a good story out of it. I got to admit, when I read my story, I was quite touched, but it was great, and I actually learned a bit about myself in the process. So get some support and some information from others in that process of telling the story. But that's what it's about. Thank you. My tips before I go. So you need a video, which we didn't know about. We did, I think, did a pretty good job of it, but it was pretty basic. But some of the winners did have pretty exceptional videos. But we all commented on the fact that the winner of the national young water professional did his own video, and it was just a really good, well thought out super cheap video about him and his life and his element to water, the elements of water and how they affected his life and how he affected that. As noted, 75% of the content must be the nominee on camera or speaking. You need some high-res photos, make them interesting. There's one of me, I'm not sure how interesting that is, but that is the actual cut-in to Arthur's Lake. That's the start of the meander of the Midlands water scheme. So that's a very, very cold place, which I spent 2 years at. So ask your colleagues for ideas, and that's a really important bit because they have different perspectives on what your skills and achievements are. Hopefully you won't get to the end and they think that it's not a good idea, because generally they will, I'm sure. And the old one is don't be scared to sell yourself. In this case, I was very lucky because other people did that for me. But this is about telling your story, so don't be frightened to do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tomo. That's some good tips there, and I like that bit about don't afraid to be yourself. So next up, we've got Cassie sharing about what it took for her to, in her application, to be successful for the Young Water Professional of the Year award. She was up against a field of 4 last year, which is encouraging to see so many young professionals within the water industry in Tasmania. So over to you, Cassie.
Thanks, Connor. Hi, so yes, I'm Cassie, and I'd like to start by paying my respects to the traditional custodians on the lands on which we meet. Thank you for joining us today. If you're someone considering nominating a young water professional, I would greatly recommend it. Being nominated and then winning the Tasmanian Young Water Professional of the Year award last year really helped me reaffirm my career and my interest in the water and environment sector. But I'll kind of touch on that a bit more later. If you're someone who might be nominated or has been nominated but unsure about how to address the criteria, or maybe worrying that it's not worth the time, I have a couple of pointers for you as well. Thank you, Tash. Last year in late August, our CEO, Andrew Kneebone, approached me with a letter in his hand. Is it good news or bad news, I asked, and had to take his laugh as reassurance. The letter was titled CEO Acknowledgement Letter, where he asked to nominate me for the AWA Young Water Professional of the Year. That time of the year is our busiest workload-wise, but we found time to prioritise answering each of the questions. Thank you, Tash. I had recently completed a project to overhaul our environmental auditing system, which has applications for other areas throughout TI that we had started rolling out. The cost and time savings, as well as the kind of increase of compliance opportunities, as well as the other projects that I've been working on in previous years, answered how my professional role was contributing to the water sector. So I also spoke on this project at the 2018 Where the Waters Meet conference in Tassie and the 2019 Oz Water Conference in Melbourne in an attempt to help other organisations in the water industry consider alternative auditing methodologies and to look into the variety of opportunities for adapting this technology to assist their businesses as well. Expanding my work past the kind of boundary of Tas irrigation and into helping the wider water sector may have been key to my success with this award. The other main section focuses on work in the water sector outside your professional role. Considering the amazing work that some of the other young water professional finalists had achieved, I believe that it was this section that helped me win this award. So I have a really strong love of science and outreach programs. I'm involved in many co-curricular activities in my spare time. For instance, I'm a member and organiser of the Launceston STEMinus. I'm an active participant in Clean Up Australia Day and the Catch It in the Catchment programs, which are focused on removing litter from our waterways. I often speak at schools regarding how studying science can lead to great career opportunities in the water and agricultural industries. And I'm also involved with Science Week, Pint of Science, and quite a bit more. Tash. Thank you. So if you're someone who's contributing to the water sector professionally and in some manner outside of work, I encourage you to give this award a go. Oh, and if you're under 35. Honestly, I'd begun to feel like I'd fallen in a bit of a rut, both with work and probably, unfortunately, juggling a few too many things in my spare time. I also run a not-for-profit dance school. So receiving the nomination alone was a huge boost to my morale in and out of work. Most of us here today work in businesses that don't have like a bonus pay system where good work is rewarded with a financial incentive to keep doing good work. So this form of nomination and award program is a really great way to communicate your appreciation for the work your employees are doing. The judging criteria listed, the judging criteria listed on the website and here as exemplary personal and professional contribution to the sector, shown initiative, motivation and passion, and has made an impact on the sector, and recognised as a leader and visionary amongst colleagues, peers, and the broader community. Now, if you're like me and aren't a huge fan of pinning those big labels on your chest, we can flip to the nomination questions. And most of us can describe how our work role has contributed to the water sector. And hopefully you also engage with outside of work activities that lead to promoting and inspiring a sustainable water future. I suggest starting on whichever question is easier for you to answer, and ask yourself periodically throughout it, how does my work or volunteering activity show initiative, motivation and passion? How have I made an impact on the water sector? Who might I talk to who recognises me as a leader or someone leading the way for inspiration? Whoever nominated you should be one of the two reference statements, and depending on who that is, hopefully you can find another. So ideally your direct manager, maybe someone else in management as well, maybe someone who has worked alongside you in a significant project, or someone who sees your outside of work activities. Your referees might benefit from you sending them your answers to the first two questions, even if they're still in draft format, plus the criteria as listed above, to give them something to frame their response around. And they might even remind you about something you've done that you've missed mentioning so far. Writing one's biography can be tricky depending on how you're feeling. I recommend trying to find time to work on these components when you're feeling more motivated, as that tone really does come across. I find it slightly easier to write my biography than the 50-word blurb that will be announced as you realise they called your name and it's time for you to take the stage. But perhaps I'm just a bit more verbose than others. The photos you submit are for the award presentation slide for use in the AWA newsletter and on the website. So I recommend having a few you're particularly happy with. From memory, I went with one of me presenting at a conference, one of me taking water quality samples, and one assessing some revegetation work I'd been involved with. Try something with a bit more interest and character than the deer in the headlights against a blank wall if you can. Later, after winning the state title, I had to prepare a 3-minute video, which I did standing beside a stream talking about my work and other achievements. I recorded it in one take, and that was for the national competition. Other finalists prepared significantly more professional versions that were edited and had their managers and so on extolling the candidates' virtues. They're all online, so do have a watch of those, and they can give you something to review and consider when developing yours, or even just developing your application. Thanks, Tash. So the Tasmanian Young Water Professional of the Year Award is sponsored by Stornoway. They started as a small farm-based quarry operation, and now Stornoway have grown into an employer of choice for more than 150 people across Tasmania and southeast Queensland. And both the AWA and the awards recipients are appreciative of their ongoing support for this award. The Tasmanian Young Water Professional of the Year Award originated in 2012 and is co-named the Gary Ingram Memorial Award in honour of Gary Ingram, a valued community member of the AWA, Tas branch. His commitment to the water sector is represented in the ongoing work of Tasmanian young water professionals. Personally, I'd like to thank Stornoway for sponsoring the award, to the 2019 AWA Committee and Award Panel for organising and selecting the finalists, and to Andrew Kneebone and Kate Gard for the nomination and helping me find the time to answer the selection criteria. Good luck to the 2020 nominees. Don't forget to get those submissions in before the 1st of October. And if anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask them either through the Q&A system or later on you're welcome to get touch base with me, and I'm happy to give you a hand. Thanks.
All right, thanks for that, Cassie. Shared some great advice there in terms of someone who's new into their career, but also pretty active in the community, which is good to hear. And last but not least, we have Lance Stapleton, who was the author for the 24 Glasses project, which won last year's Tasmanian Infrastructure Project Award. Lance is a past branch member and vice president of the AWA Tas branch, and has also had an involvement in a number of previous award nominations. Lance is now working as a consultant under his own brand, Freelance Consulting, so I'm sure that will get a plug in his presentation as well. So over to you, Lance.
All right, thanks, Connell, and thanks everybody for tuning in. So, look, in the presentation I'm going to go through today, I'm probably not going to dwell too much on the project, the 24 Glasses project. If you want to know about that, you can go and have a look at TasWater's 24 Glasses website. But basically, the project was to remove all the boil water alerts from around Tasmania, and it was quite a success. So I'd like to thank SMEC, previously known as the Snowy Mountain Engineering Company, but now SMEC. They are a large infrastructure and engineering company. They do fantastic work around Australia and internationally, and they've committed to sponsoring the Infrastructure Project Innovation Award. Now, this award is actually split nationally into regional and metro, but in Tasmania, it's just regional, which is actually good because it means any Tasmanian projects going up in the future to the national awards don't have to compete with the Sydney Waters and the Melbourne Waters. Sydney Water and Melbourne Water and SA Water put huge amounts of time and energy into their presentations, and they are amazing. And they've also got multi-billion-dollar projects. So that the sort of smaller to medium-sized projects that you'd see in Tasmania have probably got a really good chance in the national awards in the future. Next, please. So my first question is why would you submit? Like, you've done a project and you think it's a good project, and why would you submit? Why would you go to the trouble of putting together an award submission? Well, look, there's a couple of reasons. Knowledge sharing is a really good one. Knowledge sharing is about, you know, you've done something great within your project and you want to share it with the sector. And maybe some other people in the sector might pick up on that and they might go, hell, that's really good. I'm going to do that too. It's a really good thing to increase your corporate profile. 2 years back, we had 2 national winners from Tasmania and from TasWater at the National AWA Awards at Ozwater. And everybody was like, whoa, Tassie's on the map. No other organisation won 2 awards on that night. And Tasmania and I think South Australia were the only 2 states that won 2 awards for the state. So it's huge for your corporate profile. It really makes people sit up and think. And if you're an engineering or an advisory company, Opinion or SMEC or something like that, winning an award gives you huge profile and gives you huge credibility with current and future clients. Connecting people with ideas, a bit like knowledge sharing, but you'll have great ideas throughout a project. And if you can share those with other people and connect them, they might give you a call and suddenly you're part of this web of people and ideas and enthusiasm. and winning an award makes you a focal point. It's like a flower for a bee. You know, people will come to you and ask for your advice, and that's terrific, because that leads into professional pride. A lot of us, when we talk about professional pride, it's not about gloating, it's not about how good am I, but it's about we are really, really proud of what we have done for the community, and we want to share it. A fifth reason is it can actually be quite fun. Like, it's a bit of work to put together your submission. Yep, and you might have to do a video. Yeah, look, it's all work, but it's actually a fun process. You go back over your project, you look at what you've done, and you relive it. You know, the good times, the bad times, the time the excavator got stuck and tipped over, the time when you turned the tap on and clean water came through to a town which had never had clean water before. All of that stuff comes back, and it's quite an enjoyable experience. And finally, why would you submit? It's actually what the AWA is about. Share, connect, inspire. I think the awards encapsulate the heart and soul of what the AWA is about more than anything. They're about sharing your knowledge, connecting with other people, and inspiring others to do great things. So there's some good reasons as to why you might submit for an award. I've got a little suggestion for the next stage of the presentation. I'm going to be going through how to prepare a submission and some tips to prepare really good submissions. If you want to re-look at this webinar again, print a copy of the judging and criteria and key questions, have them in front of you, and re-look at this video again, because it'll make a lot of sense if you want to re-look at it if you're thinking about preparing a submission. Next, please. Okay, judging criteria. If you actually print out the judging criteria and the key questions, the 4 top things are the judging criteria, and this is a really important point. The best project does not always win. The best submission wins. So 24 Glasses went to the national awards, should have won. Of course it should have won. It was a transformative project that gave clean drinking water all around Tasmania. No other project was as good as that. But frankly, the other submissions, some of them were better. And so this is an important thing. The best project, the most worthy project, you might think it's the most worthy and best project, but the best submission wins, which is why it's worth taking the time and effort to prepare a good, interesting submission. Now, when you're preparing a submission, there's a couple of things. There's a whole lot of key questions. There's about 13 key questions, and there's 4 judging criteria. There we go. I'm in mirror writing. 4 judging criteria. The 4 judging criteria are: the project is original or innovative. I'm paraphrasing here. You'll need to go and look at it, the actual page, because it's a lot more wordy than what I'm saying, but I'm paraphrasing to keep it simple. Project is original or innovative. It is relevant to the water industry. It demonstrates tangible benefits, and there's evidence of completion. So I'm going to split these 2 into the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are probably the most important. If you can't show a measurable, tangible benefit from your project, like reduction from 20 to 0 boil water alerts, improvements in public health, improvements in economic activity, if you can't show a measurable benefit, you're really going to struggle. And if it's an incomplete project, judges aren't really that fussed about incomplete projects. One way around this, you can say, oh, it's a 3-stage project and we completed stage 1 and 2. That's you can sort of get by with that, but by and large, judges are going to look, has it demonstrated tangible benefits and has it been complete? So I'd call those essential. 1 and 2, is the project original or innovative, and is it relevant to the water industry? Look, if it's not relevant to the water industry, maybe you should be looking at an Engineering Australia award. But generally, most projects are going to get over that number 2 hurdle. It's a pretty low bar. Original or innovative, we can touch on this later on in the presentation. But this is where you can get creative and stretch. You might look at it to start and say it's not original or innovative. But if you dig and you explore, you'll find in every project there's something that is new and different and something that hasn't been done before. You have to dig to find it, but it will be there. Next, please. So this is a bit of a clunky slide with lots of words on it, and it makes sense when you're looking at the judging criteria. So looking at the judging criteria, and I'm going to read them out. This is looking at the key questions. Okay, I'm going to make an important distinction here. The key questions are the evidence that the judges will use to assess against the judging criteria. So the criteria are the first 4 things I just showed on the previous slide. The key questions where you provide the evidence are the ones I'm talking about on this slide. Now, key questions 1 to 3 is the project metro or regional? What is the project title? And who is the lead organisation? So they should take you about 3 minutes. So don't spend time on them. The next bunch of questions, 4 till 10, are the ones where you need to provide quite a lot of information, up to 500 words in some of them. But I'll break it down and I'll paraphrase. So the question 4 is about collaborators. Project collaborators, organisations and the role they played. That is the who. Who was involved? I find going through this process, it's much simpler if you break it down into a bunch of really simple questions. Question number 5, the exec summary. What physically was the project? Was it a pipeline? Was it a dam? Was it a treatment plant? Was it some sort of initiative to stop waste escaping from salmon ponds? What physically was it? A lot of the time when you write these things, you find all that physical stuff, you end up trying to answer that in the other questions. Try not to. Put what the physical project is in the executive summary and keep it nice and tight. The project context. Why did you do it? Now, as I'll talk about in a later slide, the why you did it, if you turn around and said we did it so that we could save Taswater $2.5 million, it's pretty weak. If you did it to say so that we could give clean water to over 1,000 people, that's strong, right? When you talk about why you did the project, try to make it about somebody other than yourself and other than your organisation, right? That makes it a noble project. Noble projects win awards. So you can always find a reason internally within your organisation why you did it. Look for those reasons that are external. What were the objectives? What did you set out to do with the project and did you achieve it? Should be fairly straightforward, but often we get to projects in the end and we go, oh, they didn't quite hit the mark. Do the best you can, but don't have too many goals and objectives. Have probably 3 really clear goals and objectives and then see whether or not you hit them. Relevance. So the question is, what is the project's relevance to the Australian water industry and how is it promoting a sustainable future? I call that relevance water, relevance sustainability. So the real question there is there a broader application? So could this be replicated elsewhere? Could people learn from this and grow from this? You know, what is the relevance to sustainability? You can probably answer in benefits, but is it relevant to sustainable initiatives by other organisations, in other states, in other rivers, in other places? And is there a broader application to other organisations? Like could, you know, NT Power and Water take and run with what we did at 24 Glasses and do the same in the Northern Territory for Indigenous settlements? The answer is yes. So you talk about that. How was the project original or innovative? So how was it innovative? You can get creative with this. Generally, infrastructure projects don't set out to be innovative. They set out to build infrastructure. It's pretty expensive exercise in $50 million worth of infrastructure to say, hey, let's go crazy and be really creative and paint it green and put it on stilts and, you know, have whirligigs on the outside of it. That's not the purpose. The purpose of the infrastructure is to deliver, generally water in this context, is to deliver an outcome for consumers, customers and the community. But there is always an innovative aspect to what you're doing. You have to search for it. Finally, benefits. What were the benefits? And have they been realised? The benefits are listed as social, economic, environmental and or cultural. You can always find these benefits. It's best if you can measure them and show that they've been measured. And the best benefits are the ones that are benefits to other people, not to your organisation. The best benefits are the benefits that are to the community and to customers. So if you save $2.5 million as a result of your infrastructure project, you could say that that has, you know, a knock-on effect by reducing customers' bills by X. Or the money that we saved through $2.5 million, we reinvested in a waterways project. So if you can make the benefits bigger than you, that looks like a good project. It looks like a noble project. The last questions, 11 to 12, is about a lead organisation bio, some photos and a short promo blurb. You can do that at the end of your presentation. I would spend most of your time, if you're preparing a submission for the Infrastructure Award, on questions 4 to 10 and leave questions 1 to 3 and 11 to 12 to the end. Next, please. So that was about preparing, just filling in the forms, right? These are the things, the big questions you need to answer. Now, to go the next step and to make your submission great, as opposed to just get a submission in on time, here are some tips. Now remember, preparing a submission, doesn't matter how good the applicant is or how good the project is, it's an exercise in communication. Communication, as I put up here, is the effective transfer of thought from one mind to another. So if somebody reads your submission and ends up with a different thought than the one that was in your head, it wasn't good communication. You're trying to think of how great your project was and how wonderful it was and what great community benefits flowed from the project. And you channel that and you communicate through the submission to the judges. So I've got some tips here as to how to really make your submission sing and how to take your submission from being something you got in on time to something which is a real contender or a winner. So the first bunch of 4 dot points there, they're more about the process of submitting. I'll go through some of this stuff here. Give yourself time to prepare. I have done submissions for awards for things like Young Water Professional with some colleagues in the past where we got it ready within an hour of the submission date and it was successful. And then I went back and reread them and I said that shouldn't have won. That was a piece of doggerel. Give yourself time to prepare. So do it well in advance, because what that then allows you to do is to edit the submission. If you give yourself time, you can chuck all your ideas down, whiteboard the whole thing, you can do it on butcher's paper, and then you can get the best ideas and you can coalesce and you can trim those and edit those right into a really tight 250 word statement. I generally find I write a lot of words, so I might write 400 words for something where we need 250. And then we edit and we trim back, we trim back, and we trim back, and we trim back until the very essence of what you're trying to say is in that 250 words. I strongly suggest you involve others in preparing your submission. You're generally going to have some person who's leading it and doing most of the work, but if you involve others, they can offer critical advice, they can offer help, they can help prepare the video for you, they can go through a photo trove and dig out photos. Involving others, workshopping ideas is really good. Now, I know we all get sick of workshops, but frankly, workshopping ideas and having post-it notes on a wall is extremely effective, and it allows you to really hone in your thinking on the things, on the most important points of the project. Look at previous winners. So at the last slide of this has got a link to the AWA website, which has got the last year's state winners of the Infrastructure Innovation Award, and look at their videos. Look at the project and then look what they did with their submission and see how they really made a really great submission. And that really highlighted the major points of their project that were really important. And a lot of them are about community. Most of the videos, if you see in that website, you'll find that the reason that the project was done is given as being outside, not being within the organisation. Don't discredit yourself. You might look at the criteria and say, oh, we didn't meet that criteria, so we won't submit. Find a way to meet the criteria. You always can. Be creative and tell a story. And the power of narrative is really important when you're doing this sort of submission work, having a story that flows through. I think Tomo touched on that. Include a human element. And the photo I've given there is some people. These are looking at some people like that, young people, that is the reason you might do a water project. Not because you want to save money or because you love digging pipes. You're doing it for people. So include a human element. Include the human element of the people who worked on the project as well. And as I said before, make it bigger than you. The benefits should be customers, community, broader economy, environment, and peers. Next, please. Next, please. So, almost finally, the judging process. So when the judges sit down, what they do is they judge individually all the submissions, and then they score them, and then they all get together and discuss the scores. To succeed, a submission needs to be both interesting and inspiring and best meet the judging criteria. Funnily enough, when judges sit down and agree on a shortlist, they generally go with what's interesting and inspiring to them. And then with a shortlist, they go, how did they meet the judging criteria? And I've seen it done before where you've got 3 really good submissions, and most people agree that this one's the best. But when you go through and see whether or not it actually met the criteria, it ends up being number 3 and not number 1. So these are the things you should consider. Next, please. Next, please. Hello. Right. So finally, bring it all together. Have a look at this. Have a look at this web link. This shows a number of successful projects and the videos. And if you go through and you look at the videos and you look at the elements that we described previously, you can see how these elements are used in the video to create a really powerful submission and tell a really powerful story. Thank you. Right. That's great. Thanks very much, everybody. Good luck. And if anybody ever needs some advice in terms of preparing a submission, I'm more than happy to talk.
All right, thanks for that, Lance. Yeah, it's good to be reminded about noble projects, so put your thinking hats on about that. Now it's time for our Q&A with the panel, so please put some, pop your questions down into the, using the Q&A function at the bottom of Zoom. I suppose in the, I will, I've got a couple of questions I'll sort of start the ball rolling with. So in regards to, so everyone had to put a video in. I think everyone mentioned how that was, I suppose, not a bit last minute, or they hadn't really prepared thinking they would need it. So obviously people need to go in knowing that that could be a possibility. So how hard was it to put the video together, and I suppose looking back, would you have changed anything about how you did the process? So Tomo?
Yeah, Connell, one of the things in doing the video, which was quite interesting for us, was we had a few goes at it, because I discovered, being an old dude, that whilst I can talk flat stick underwater, I can't remember a script. So we tried to actually work out ways to present the sort of information we needed to present, but I could never remember it. So you really have to get into a situation where you just talk naturally about what you're about. And we eventually did that, and I think we produced a reasonable video. Certainly, I suspect some of the larger Water Corp videos, the one that won the Water Professional, I would have thought was, you know, a professionally produced video. But as said, the fellow that won, the young professional one nationally, his was, I'd say, you know, almost a selfie type video, but it was really well thought out. So I think it's a case of, before you do too much, think about what it means to you and what the message you want to get across, and show the passion in the process. At the end of the day, you're always going to come up against other situations, but as Lance said, I think if you sell the message well, then you have every opportunity.
All right. Yeah, that's good. How about you, Cassie?
Yeah, so I also missed that was something that I was supposed to do until fairly late in the piece, as in it probably was supposed to be uploaded by 5. So I pretty much raced home from work, there's a stream just near my place with my hubby on the camera, and I had basically had the notes prepared, but I hadn't timed it sufficiently. So it turned out to be a bit closer to 4 minutes, which I then kind of had to speak a little bit faster on to try to get it all through. And although we have mics at home, I didn't even think to take them. And so, you know, you can hear a lot of the creek in the background and some kids playing in a nearby backyard kind of thing. So I think if you can take the opportunity to do the planning for it, you know, a week, 2 weeks at least out beforehand, then you've got that opportunity to go back and do it just a little bit better. I think is probably something I wish I had have done. And at the time, like I didn't feel confident enough to ask my manager or anyone else to kind of, would you talk about me for, you know, 30 seconds? But I think if you've been nominated, most of your workplaces probably do already see your value and would probably have said yes in a heartbeat, but it just, asking can be difficult at times. So see if you can kind of push past that.
Yep, that's good. How about you, Lance? Anything on the video front?
Yeah, well, I have to admit we had a fairly strong comms team, including somebody who was a professional video producer. So,
yep.
But I suppose the tip in that is if you're thinking about doing a large infrastructure project, think about preparing a video for it at the start. So there's a couple of things. You know, if it's a $10 million to $50 million project, you can find some money, right? You can get money on that project budget to have somebody come and shoot some professional video and do some professional editing. And even if you're not thinking like that, you can always collect video and photos and footage and all that sort of stuff throughout the project. So if you're thinking about it, do it throughout the project. And then you've got a whole lot of material, a whole lot of resource at the end that you can pull together and edit into something that looks really slick. The other thing is, if you're doing an infrastructure project, the most powerful piece of video in the infrastructure awards, and you go and have a look at all those videos, is the testimonials. So it's where people outside the organisation are talking about, oh, well, I didn't have drinking water and my Airbnb was going to hell and I had to put my own reverse osmosis system in. And now they say, now it's wonderful, I can turn the tap on. So the testimonials of other people outside the organisation talking up your project will be the most powerful parts of your video.
Yep, no, that's good. One question that has been asked is, what sort of notice did you get between obviously you winning the award at Gala night and then realising that meant you were in for the national award? How much time did you have prepared before your videos had to be submitted? Cassie, you said
sure.
It was a bit of a rush. So how much time did you, what sort of notice did you have?
Well,
and that?
So the awards night was in November, if I remember correctly, and yeah, straight away you know that you're up for the national level. But I think I just missed that little kind of italic line that had been mentioned the first time around. So and there'd been an email that I just missed kind of over Christmas. So I think the videos might have needed to have been in about late January. So there is a fair bit of time, really. It's just knowing and again prioritizing, making sure you get it done.
Yep. So, but yeah. Yep. That's, yeah. So you've probably got a couple of months, but it's certainly worthwhile, something that you think about as you're putting together. And certainly, as Lance was saying, start to build up that resume of information as you go through the project. Got a question here from Matt. So he says, not everyone or all projects will address every single bit of judging criteria well. What would you do to overcome this hurdle? So this is probably one for you, Lance.
Yeah, look, this is where, if you go and have a look at the notes, you be creative. You don't discredit yourself, don't prejudge. All right, if it's not obvious, it means you need to dig. So you need to look at it and think, not does this meet the criteria, but how does it meet the criteria? It's like the old saying, don't tell me why not, tell me how. And that's very glib, but if you think like that, you will find reasons, you will find how it is innovative, how it makes a difference to community. If you think that way, if you think about how does it do it rather than if it does it. So when you're writing your application, never be the judge. Don't say if, say how. Find a way between, yeah, okay, it might be a bit weak, but if you get creative, you'd be surprised how strong it can sound later on.
Yep, no, that's good. All right, I'm being given the wrap up, so make sure that we finish on time for everyone. So, so as you can see, there's the slide there with some of the key, the link to the website there, which has got the criteria and also some of the key dates. So this year, as you can see, we're providing an opportunity for peer review of all nominations. So that's rather than, I suppose, trying to develop it within your own team and then submitting, and with hoping at least now you can have your peers who, and these won't be people who are involved in the judging, so they won't have any preconceptions when it comes to the judging time, but they can give you some feedback, and they'll give you plenty of time then if you need to tweak your submission. Your nominations close 5 p.m. on Thursday, 1st of October. So you've got about 6 or 7 weeks between now and then. And winners will be announced at our awards presentation night. We're just putting the finishing touches to what they'll look like and the timing, but it'll either be late November or in early December. So thank you everyone for joining us, and for people who are going to be watching this later, up on the website. So it will be on the website to watch it again, sort of as Lance has suggested. Watch it a few times to have a look at some of the tips that have been shared. So thanks to all the 3 panelists. Great to sort of share some of your passion for the water industry, and also sort of being real about your careers and also some of the projects you've worked on. So thank you everyone.